Welcome to Candid Conversation. The last 3 messages I did at home, and it was about the question I was asked to deal with is dealing with pornography and marriage. And so the last 3 were a background to that I did at home, where I had a board. And so now I'm going to talk about basically with those 3 in mind. Then we're going to talk about how to deal with pornography and marriage. Now, the verse, Ephesians 5, I think it's verse 22, says, "Wives, submit unto your husbands as unto the Lord." And then a couple of verses later, the commandment for the husbands is, "Husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church and gave himself for it." So one thing to understand for the husbands is that their wives, one thing to understand for both is really that the spouse's brain works differently than your brain, and things are interpreted differently as a result. So, as I mentioned to men, the women's sins are silly, and to women, the men's sins are gross. The woman manifests her sin nature, sexual sins, through Hallmark movies, romantic type movies, and through romance novels, where she has an emotional fantasy about some man, and that man meets her needs emotionally because she has an emotional type brain. So she's looking for the man who loves her, takes care of her, opens the door for her, is a gentleman, does whatever she wants him to do, knows what she wants and does it before she even asks or hints at it, because he knows her so intimately, and that shows that he cares about her. And so that's the romance novel, the Hallmark movie type of guy. You don't ever see the man get in arguments with the woman. You don't see her having to make any hints. It's like he just reads her mind and knows exactly what she wants, and he takes care of it. And of course, he's good looking. He's tall, dark, and handsome. And so, that's that fantasy. And so then the woman then gets displeased with her husband because the fantasy, the Hollywood movie type guy, or the romance novel type guy doesn't really exist in real life, because the man doesn't know what the woman wants. I mean, she thinks, well, if you love me, you'll figure that out. Well, if the man had an emotional brain like the woman, then maybe he could figure out some of that stuff. But his brain doesn't work like the woman's brain. The woman assumes that her brain is like the man's brain, and that's not how it is. The woman's brain is emotional. The man's brain is rational or logical thinking. And so he can't, like I mentioned, there have probably been women that have been flirting with me at the gym or somewhere, and I have no clue. I have no clue they're interested. I don't pick up on those signals because my brain doesn't work that way. You got to be direct with me. But the woman thinks, well, if I'm not direct, then the guy really isn't interested because he doesn't take the time to get to know me. So the woman sees the romance novel and the Hallmark movie and the romantic movie from Hollywood and says, why can't my husband be like that? Why can't he meet my needs like that and just see what I want and not really be so selfish and trying to do what he wants to do, and instead do what I want to do and be able to read that and see that? And the fact is, that's not going to happen. It's a Hollywood script. I would assume that what the man does, it was written by the woman, because those movies are for women. So there's probably women writers, and they're writing their ideal situation. Probably they got a husband who's just like your husband, who doesn't pick up on those hints because he doesn't have an emotional mind to figure it out. He's got a rational thinking mind. And so the woman says, boy, I wish I had a husband that would pick up on what I want before I even ask for it, and just love me unconditionally and do whatever I want him to do. And And so then she writes a movie for Hallmark with her ideal man or husband in mind. And so it's a woman writing that. And that's why the husband can pick up on those things in the movies, is because the woman is the one who writes it. It's the woman's brain inserted into the man's brain via a Hollywood script for him to be able to figure this stuff out. Then on the other side, the pornographic movie, the man wants to say, why does my wife nag me all the time and complain about stuff? And she says, the thing about the woman, the curse is that you look at Eve. Adam is the head of the woman. Man is the head of the woman because Adam was first formed, then Eve. And the other part is because the man has the logical, rational brain, he's good at following instructions. So God gives the commandment to Adam, not to the woman, but to Adam, and he knows what the commandment is and he can follow it. A woman thinking with an emotional brain isn't going to think logically and rationally about the commandment. And she's going to think of it with an emotional bend and saying, well, I know the commandment is this, but in this situation, I should really do this other thing because that way I meet the commandment emotionally rather than rationally. And so the woman will reinterpret the commandment and follow it in a different way than the man will follow it. So that's why you'll have in churches today, which we're in a woman's world right now, but in churches today, you'll have women who they'll say, well, I know the Bible says this or that, but in this situation, it's better to do this other thing. The white lie is the example. My wife, she'd always want to, she knows what the commandments are and what she should do. But in her mind, it was, well, when my mother asks me about something, I need to lie about it. Even though I know the Bible says that I shouldn't lie, it's because I need to lie in order to protect her feelings. Because if I don't lie, then she's going to be hurt by the truth. And so then, and I'm thinking emotionally rather than rationally or logically, therefore I obey the commandment by lying. Because I take care of the emotional needs of my mother rather than just flat out obeying the commandment. And so women will reinterpret things and think of it from an emotional standpoint. Whereas the man is thinking of things rationally and logically. So the man, remember his sex drive, and this is just on average, he'll want to have sex 3 times a week. The woman wants to have sex once a week. Just natural sex drive type thing. Again, that's just a numbers I'm throwing out there. That's not every situation, everything. That's just what I think. And so he's thinking, well, why can't I just have sex whenever I want to with my wife? And the problem is that for him, it's a logical, rational thing. Is I've got the sex drive and I want to have sex, so let's do that. But the woman, the way she enjoys sex isn't just the physical act, it is an emotional type bond that she wants. So the woman is more likely to want to have foreplay and for it to last longer because there is an emotional connection, and that's what pleases her. Whereas the man is just the act of it because there isn't that emotional side. It's just a purely sex drive type thing. And so the man, while he may want to have sex with his wife 3 times a week, and the woman wants to have sex with her husband once a week, the way they go about it is different. So the man has to, in order for the woman to go along with it, he has to try to please her. So maybe we gotta go to dinner and dress up and have a romantic time, and then we gotta have the foreplay and all this other stuff. And really, it's just a whole bunch. To him, it's just a bunch of wasted time that he has to go through in order to get her ready, where she would be willing to have sex with him. And that's a whole lot of trouble. And then when you actually do have sex, she's probably going to complain about what's going on, that it's not being done right, that he's, and again, I don't want to go through all the graphic stuff, but you get the idea, is that it's not going to be, because she's got a vision of an emotional connection that's happening in this, and so she's got an idea of just the perfect way that it's done. And that's done in the romance novels and the Hallmark movies and the Hollywood stuff. The real life sex situations are nothing like what is portrayed in the movies, except for pornography. Because pornography, while the romance movie and a Hallmark movie was written by women for women, the pornography is going to be written by men. And so women will think, well, there's no storyline, there's just sex. Exactly, because that's what a man wants. He's not looking for an emotional connection. He's not looking for a story and foreplay. He's just looking for sex. So the man, say he wants to have sex with his wife 3 times a week, and the wife wants to have sex with her husband once a week, and let's just say that the wife, because the commandment in Ephesians 5 is, wives, submit unto your husbands. The husband is the leader. The issue, as we talked about last time, is usually the woman, or usually the man, he wants to have sex 3 times a week, but he ends up not wanting to have sex with his wife 3 times a week because she is bringing in a different type of brain, and so it's a lot more work for this to happen than what he would want to happen, because now he's got to cater to her emotional needs. So even though if she's willing to have sex with him 3 times a week, it's, well, we got to do this. The mood has got to be right. That's the woman she says, well, I'm not in the mood. You'll never hear a man say, I'm not in the mood, because his sex drive is greater than the woman's sex drive. And because he uses a rational or logical brain rather than an emotional brain, there's no mood that has to be set. I know my wife all the time would ask me, well, what do you want to eat? I'd say, I don't care. And genuinely, I didn't care. What I cared about is, I'm hungry, let me have food. And as long as it's something like, I couldn't handle spicy food, so I wouldn't want that. But, honestly, it didn't matter. Whatever day of the week, it didn't matter whether I had Mexican or Italian or American or whatever. I really didn't care. We could have Chinese, we could have Japanese. It doesn't matter to me. As long as I have food that's not spicy, that I don't think tastes horrible, then that's what I want to eat. That's my criteria. But see, she can never grasp that in her mind. In her mind, it was always for her. So if I'd suggest a place, she'd want to go where I will want to go. That's what she would say. But in reality, what it is, it's a fake submission to the man. Because the man, remember the curse in Genesis 3, is that the woman, Eve, desired to rule over her husband. She's the one that took the fruit from the tree. She's the one that gave it to her husband, and her husband ate with her. It wasn't enough for her to do the sin. She's got to drag her husband into it because it's an emotional type connection. It's like her and Adam could bond emotionally by them sinning together. And so the eating of the food, for me, it's a rational, logical thing. It is, I'm hungry, let's have food. Can't be spicy or can't be something that I don't like. But as long as I don't hate the food, and as long as it's not spicy, I'll eat it. And it don't matter what kind. But for my wife, it was always, she just couldn't grasp that I wasn't ever in the mood for something. So I would say, okay, well, let's go down to Culver's and get a burger. Well, I'm not really in the mood for Culver's, well, okay, well, let's go down here to the seafood place and get that. You like shrimp? Yeah, I like shrimp, but I'm not really in the mood for that right now. Okay, well, let's go to this Mexican restaurant. Let's have Mexican. Yeah, I like Mexican. But the last time I was there, that waitress gave me a dirty look. So I'm not sure that they like me there. They might spit in my food. So let's go to this other restaurant, a Mexican restaurant. See, she's the one that asked me what I want. And I honestly don't care as long as it's not spicy and it's not something that I hate, which I can, at any restaurant, really, I could find something that's not spicy, unless it's a Cajun restaurant or something, and something that I don't hate. So honestly, it didn't matter to me, the type of food. And with the particular restaurant, doesn't matter. But for her, all of those things are important. And she knows that the wife is supposed to submit unto the husband. So she knows that I'm supposed to make the decision. But she wants to, as Genesis 3 says, the curse to the woman is that the husband will rule over her, but she will desire to rule over him. So the way a woman tries to do it is she'll try to, in theory, have the man choose. But she will try to manipulate the situation to the point where it seems like what the man chooses is the man's idea, but in reality, he's choosing what the woman wants. So, and she couldn't do that with me with eating because I wouldn't make a choice. Because I learned, because if she asked me what I wanted, I would usually just pick the closest, cheapest restaurant because I don't care what the food tastes like as long as I don't hate it and it's not spicy. So why am I going to pay $30 a person for something when I can get something for $5 a person? Because I literally don't care what the food is. And why not go to someplace close then? That way I don't spend as much time in this. And that's why I say I'd rather eat at home. That's even less time. But she wouldn't accept that. She'd be unhappy. She'd say that it's up to me and I make the decision. But if I make the decision and try to enforce it and we go do it, well, now she's unhappy. And I can tell she's unhappy. But she's not going to tell me she's unhappy. She's just going to gripe and try to get me to force it out of her. Because if I really loved her, I would know that she was unhappy with that decision. I'd be able to read it. But that's her emotional mind. And my logical, rational mind, I don't know until she just doesn't talk to me and just sits there. So what I would do, or so what she'd do is try to get me to choose. But it's not that she's trying to get me to choose what I want, because we've already established that what I want to do is eat at home, and what she wants to do is eat out. And so if we eat at home, she's going to be upset and griping the whole time. I mean, she may not be complaining verbally, but you can tell she's upset. And there's no conversation. So there's no emotional connection. She's not happy. So then I'm not happy because I got to try to figure out what's going on with her. Because she won't tell me because she assumes that I'm going to know. If I truly love her, I'll know. So then all we do is just sit in the meal and eat it, and she's unhappy, and I don't know why, and I don't know what I did, and she won't tell me because I need to know, I need to figure it out if I really love her. So I got all these things going on, so what I end up doing is trying to get her to choose. And then she'd eventually maybe give me 3 choices. And then whichever one I chose would probably be the one that she didn't want. So we're eventually going to end up with whatever restaurant and whatever food she wanted to eat at. And then that way she's happy. But I've got to figure it out. And with my brain, I'm not able to figure it out. So it was a really hard situation. After a while, I learned through trial and error what she wants. So then I try to make the guess that she would want. And then she's happy. So when it comes to sex, the situation is very similar. That women are looking for some emotional connection, and men are just, it's like the food thing. I'm hungry, get something to eat. What are you going to eat? I don't care. I just want to eat. When it comes to sex, what are you going to do? I don't care all the details of it. It's just I got a sex drive, and let's have sex, and then it's satisfied. Then that's it. All the details of it isn't important. But for the woman, it's all about the experience. Just like the food. The food is very unimportant to my wife. What's important is the atmosphere, how she is fed, how she feels there. That's why I'd go to a fast food place and she didn't want to go to fast food places, because the environment and the atmosphere was much better in a restaurant as opposed to a fast food place. But fast food was cheap and it took less time, and it tastes just as good as far as I'm concerned. So all of that was all I cared about. But see, she cared about all the emotional stuff. So when it comes to sex, it's the same thing. When it comes to pornography, the man gets what he wants. It's logical and rational. I have a sex drive. Okay, here's the pornographic movie. The woman in there is sexy to me. And if she's not, well, then I go find a pornographic movie where she is sexy. And then you don't hear her complaining and wanting foreplay and wanting all this other stuff. It's just the man is everything to her. She loves the man. She wants to do everything the man wants to do. And because the man wrote the script. Just like in the Hallmark movie, or the Hollywood movie, or the romance novel, everything is according to the fantasy of the woman. The man behaves exactly like the woman wants him to behave because it's in the script, because the woman wrote the script. So the woman can make the man be ideal to him, to her. And so in a pornographic movie, it's the reverse. It's the man who wrote the script, and the man can make the woman be the ideal woman, which is an attractive woman who will just satisfy his sex drive. And all the other stuff, the emotional stuff, and you don't see a pornographic movie. I don't watch pornographic movies, but I'm assuming that if you saw a pornographic movie, wouldn't be a story where the two meet, they go out on a dinner, they talk, they eat at a restaurant, they talk for an hour and a half, and then they come home, and then they get all clean and everything, and then they have some emotional connection through foreplay, and then they have sex. It's probably, the pornographic movie is probably just sex, because that's all the man is interested in. That other stuff is what the woman is interested in. It's the emotional part. So the man is more likely to go to the pornographic movie because it satisfies what he wants. So even if the woman is willing to have sex with the man 3 times a week, there's a lot of extra stuff that he has to do that he doesn't want to do. So it's much easier to go to the pornographic movie, just like it's much easier for the woman to go to the romance novel. Okay, I'm out of time. We'll start here next time.